I'm here to review step number 6 of the 67 steps, the 67 different intellectual frameworks that you need to make good life decisions. This one is called Sculpture versus the Lottery in the Anthropic Media Bias, eliminating the biases on success's exponential time frame. The gist of this one was all about the influence the media has on our subconscious mind in regards to us pursuing success and messing with our expectations on how fast success is going to come and the effort that it's honestly going to take to achieve it. And this is called media bias. And we'll later learn about narrative bias too, but we're introduced to the idea of media bias when Ty explains that when he was a young kid, he really liked to go swimming in the ocean, but a lot of people didn't like swimming in the ocean because of the movie Jaws that came out in 1975. That fictional movie about a great white shark that wreaks havoc on a local town in Massachusetts. And that caused people to have a bias towards sharks, forgetting the fact that sharks are just a necessary part of the ecosystem. And although people yearly do get bitten by sharks, statistically, you're much more likely to be walking along the street and have an airplane piece fall from the sky and hit you in the head. But the news doesn't cover that story because the news is skewed towards ratings, and they're going to push to the top the stories that make the greatest headline and have the greatest kind of emotional reaction. And that causes us to, that skewed way that the news does things causes us to be misinformed on what is important and what isn't important. And this is an example of this is when a survey was done where it asked a group of people, what's the greatest threat to humanity? And people, of course, said things like terrorism and inequality and domestic violence. But the more common and more likely threat to humanity is soil erosion. We're losing the top part of the earth that's most important for us to grow crops. And if we lose that part of the earth, like we're headed, we're going to be in some serious trouble. But again, that news doesn't make it to the top of the nightly news and newspapers because it's not as sexy. As far as success goes, we're oftentimes misinformed through the media about success. We see people like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Oprah Winfrey with their billions of dollars and their private jets and their 80-room mansions, but we're not reported on the story of Bill Gates working from age 20 to 30 without taking a single day off. So subconsciously, if you see that enough, the media bias and narrative bias will start to infiltrate your thinking and cause you to have that expectation for success also. And Ty's suggestion is, because of this, for all of us to take a break from the media. And of course, the concern is that if you don't watch the news, you're going to be uninformed. But Ty gives us the reassurance that any news you need to know, someone will tell you. So he calls that whole media bias, he calls that the lottery approach, where we're just kind of hoping that one day the lottery's just gonna fall down into our lap and success is gonna hit us like a ton of bricks and we're not gonna really have to work for it. But he's suggesting to just drop that immediately, drop the lottery approach immediately and adopt what he calls the sculpture approach to success. So the idea is based on the fact that you pick a rock that's based around your strengths for health, wealth, love, and happiness, and every day you chip away at that and carve away at optimizing your life based on that rock that you've been given. So for example, there's 3 different body types: ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph. I'm what's called an ectomorph, tall and lean. So I should have that be my rock for health and base my decisions for health and fitness around what I was naturally given, a long, lean body. So I should focus on endurance training and jiu-jitsu training. And if you're a mesomorph, which is the body type that's much more kind of blocky and muscular, you probably shouldn't focus on endurance training because that's not your natural strengths. And again, Peter Drucker says, most people think they know what they are good at, and they are usually wrong. And he says you can only build upon your strengths. It takes much less effort to make your strengths into excellence than it does to make your weaknesses into even mediocrity. So referring to that mesomorph person, they should focus more on things like powerlifting and kind of slower moving exercises such as that, because they're more likely to struggle with being a Kenyan runner or something that requires endurance, like my body type. And of course, you have to find out what your strengths are, not only with your body, but what your natural strengths are in other areas of your life. And you can do that by taking things like the Myers-Briggs test, running experiments, and also by stranger feedback. Let's see what else. Because Ty says it's all about always playing the odds. And although you can see on the news every day that someone wins in the lottery, would you bet your life on that? You always want to plan for the most likely scenario. And if you build your life around your strengths, you're much more likely to achieve success than just betting on the 1 in 40 million chances that you're going to win the lottery. Because like Ty says, it's all about playing the law of averages. And sometimes a pair of 2s in poker wins, but you're much better off betting on a pair of aces, of course, because that's going to win more often than not. So Ty suggests for us to not read things like magazines, and instead of that, we should read things like biographies that, of course, are longer, but that's the point. They go into the long form. Because even if you just look at a magazine article, just the fact that it's much shorter is going to make you subconsciously assume that the success was achieved in a much shorter time for that particular person you're reading about. If you read about biographies, it's going to be hundreds of pages, and it's going to go into much more depth and detail about what it took for those people to succeed. So I'm right now reading Steven Spielberg's biography, and you can see that although we see Steven Spielberg at the top of Hollywood now, he was making movies when he was 7 years old. So everything starts small. So he started small. And if you don't do what Ty's suggesting here and you just follow the media and the narrative bias that abbreviates success, you're going to get discouraged and give up too easily, because success in the largest scale takes time, even for people that are unusually intelligent. And Ty reminds us too that success isn't really something you arrive at, it's a process. And it's all about progress and not perfection. And he says it another way, that it's all about you optimizing your life. So picking your rock for love means that you should first figure out what kind of relationship you want to be in, and then hang around that group of people and move towards that and chip away at that every day like a sculptor. So if you want to be married at 25 and have a bunch of kids, associate with people in that group and you'll move towards that. If you don't want that, then perhaps you just want to never be married or just be married and no kids. You should associate with people like that. So the association and the goal is your rock, and then you chip away at it every day. And we got to learn to love the grind, because Coach John Calipari, NCAA basketball coach, says we need to learn to love the grind because the grind is life. And of course, with sculpturing, we have to be a lot more careful and a lot more precise, because we can't accidentally chop a big part of the rock off. We'd have to start at our sculpture again. But it's important to do things the old-fashioned way. Dan Pena calls it the Vince Lombardi way. No shortcuts, no hacks. It's like Charlie Munger says, step by step you get ahead, but not necessarily in fast spurts. But the discipline of the step-by-step process prepares you for when the fast spurts do come. And you know, Peter Drucker says our goal should be 18 months. We should have 18-month goals. Of course, you go through the grocery aisle checkout lane, and all the advertisements on those magazines don't ever say 18-month diet. They say 8-minute abs, lose 7 pounds in a week. But it's like the Amish say, a fence that goes up too fast comes down too fast. So 18-month goals give you enough time to make real everlasting changes. Even these 67 steps, this is just the beginning of changing your habits. You're not going to immediately see results after these 67 days. So stay away from the media and be more realistic in success's time frame. The questions for this lesson are, what is the #1 area in your life you've taken this lottery approach? And what is your plan to start sculpting your life, and what will the benefits be? Thanks for watching. I'll see you on step number 7 of the 67 steps. Take care.